Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are following House Bill 404 that allows public bodies to meet electronically through July 2021. Okay, that was the call to order. Roll call.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller. Here. Councilman Linville.
Present.
Councilwoman Allen.
Here.
Councilwoman Trulaski.
Here.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Whedon.
Here. All of council here, along with our fiscal officer, Angela Reve, and our law director, John Montello.
We have a new council president, too, presiding tonight for the first time.
That is true. You're right, Denny, because Jennifer was sworn in our last, not sworn in, but voted in our last meeting.
Yep.
Okay. So is she gonna behave, or what do you think, Denny?
Sing and dance, is
I
that?
told you what I'm going to do, John.
That's why we elected us.
Keep us all in line, right?
Oh, I can do that.
Mary will help you if you need to. She's got the experience, right, Mary? Okay. So next item, any comments related to the agenda items? And just like to welcome the residents too that are joining us tonight, and any non-residents that are watching us on the YouTube. You're welcome to type in your comments throughout the meeting, and Sarah or Angela will pick those up, and we'll be glad, try to answer them the best we can. Any comments related to the agenda items as of right now? Okay, because we're going to go through it. Item 4, approval of the COW meeting minutes. Is there a motion of the January 5th, 2021 minutes?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the council meeting COW minutes of January 5th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jennifer. Vote on the motion.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Trulaski.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes. Minutes approved. Okay. Item 5. First item on the agenda, it's legislation. It's ordinance 2021-2, the police radio lease agreement with Motorola. I also believe we put that on first reading, didn't we?
We had it on first reading, correct.
First reading last month. We just wanted to get some more documentation relating to the agreement. So we can talk about that and see if there's anything else we need to do or how everybody feels. Angela, did you want to comment on any of that?
I mean, if anyone has questions, I did send you guys out during the day today if you were able to see, and then also just gave you the bid. I actually printed everything out, but the notice to bidders from the county inside some of their bid paperwork, and then as well on the back a cooperative purchasing agreement that allows the county to go ahead and pass that bid on to the municipalities. The cooperative purchasing vendor form, I should say.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with all the documentation and everything. I'd just like to point out for the record and for the people listening and who may have this, or watching and who may have this, in the first section 1, just to make clear, it states the mayor and fiscal officer are authorized to enter into a 3-year purchase agreement at an interest rate of 3.96% with Motorola Solutions, et cetera, et cetera. We are, however, we're not paying that 3.96% interest right away. We would pay that if we did not pay the entire note by the end of the year.
Right, the first payment will be due 1 year after execution of the agreement, which would actually take us into the beginning of 2022.
Yes, and hopefully we will do some, with our finances this year, we'll be able to pay that off. That's our goal. And if we can't for some reason, we have that as a backstop.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Angela, there's a comment that came through, but it wasn't on the live chat.
Yeah, okay, I don't see it. Can you let us know what it is?
It's from Karen Running, and it says, "Hi, everybody. How did the Amber Alert get my cell phone number? Was this from a reverse 911 call?"
It was. It was a
Well,
reverse.
what-
We will talk about it during other business.
Yeah. Karen, we can talk about that. We're going to go through this and other business, or maybe after this between legislation, just in case you're not going to stay on, we can talk about that.
What is the point, please? The point that was being made, could you read?
About the code red 911 call from the weekend for an Amber Alert.
I can't.
The code red, there was a question about that code red Amber Alert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, in your, well, let's get through this, and then we'll talk about them. But we'll address you soon, Karen, so, in case you don't want to stay up.
Does anyone feel it's important to note that we have to be in conformity with other departments that we share dispatching and code reds with and things like that?
Yeah. Denny, in your pack, well, you'll see, when we get to it, it's all, we got it here, we'll explain it. Shannon gave us a letter and stuff, and we can go through it and answer Ms. Reming's question and stuff. And you'll see it in the packet. Take a look, you'll see there's some correspondence. But, I mean, if you want to come back to this legislation, we can. If you want to continue to take a look and, you know, we can move on to some other things and come back to this.
Mr. Mayor, I'm good with what Angela provided also.
Okay.
Answered questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm absolutely fine with this too. Spoke with John, he said everything was in order through the county and stuff too, to help cover us. So we have everything, we've seen it all, so I think, and I appreciate the extra information and the inquiry of the extra information too, so that we do make sure we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, but it does appear that everything's in order and the village is safe to move forward with this legislation. I just want to make sure that all of the residents understand too, this is something we have to do.
Correct.
So we need to be, this is a safety issue for our residents, for our officers, for everybody involved. And it allows our officers to communicate effectively with all of the surrounding communities without having to go through a lot of red tape. And they are due to be updated.
Mayor, that,
Yes.
whereas that sort of assuages my concern, okay, with respect to noting this, you know, in line with other departments and other communities. I just reread that.
Mayor Colgrath?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any real comments or questions regarding this piece of legislation. We have some supporting documentation that helps us get to the sole source purchase from Motorola Solutions. And if there's, after if there's any other comments, I would like to introduce this ordinance tonight.
It won't be until the council meeting.
Well, okay, you're right. Sorry. No special counsel tonight? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll see how, we'll have to talk about, next week, what,
Well,
we did talk about maybe having a special council meeting next week if we don't have a regular meeting. but we know we want to get through the CBA and some of the, other things. But we will remember that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mayor, I just, while we're in sealed committee of the whole, I just think it's if possible, if, every committee of the whole, if we know who's going to introduce, by the time we get to the council meeting, it might make that meeting just a little smoother.
No,
So,
if everybody's good with that, that's,
instead of you having to ask at the meeting, we'll already know. The only other thing that might add a little more to this would be the actual completed bid docs from the county. We have what the bid looked like going out. That would be the only added documentation that might make this even.
So I will get that to you, Mr. Whedon, but the
Okay.
county does work a little bit different than us, and they don't meet as often. So even
Okay.
though they've pushed all this through already to start their process for everyone, they'll be passing their legislation on the Motorola piece in March. So
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna do it at the end of January, but I don't know if they canceled their meeting or what, but, so when we have that, we will back that up with
Okay.
our documents.
That would be the only other thing that
Yeah.
would strengthen our purchasing arrangement.
so is everybody okay with ordinance 2021-2? The police radio lease agreement with Motorola?
Yes.
We have it on for first reading, so we would ask for suspension in our next meeting. We've discussed it now in quite a few COW meetings and a
So we are going to suspend then?
Yes, we have it on for first reading, but we'd like to get it
Sure.
because of the time limit on the contract, get it for suspension. And we talked about it, and like everybody mentioned, we have the documentation to go with it. Okay, so we'll put that on. We'll have it on next COW meeting.
Yep.
If we decide to have a council meeting, depending where we're at, we'll have it there too. And Mr. Whedon can introduce it if everybody's okay with that. Okay. Well, here, before we get into item B, the internet auction, we can address one of our residents, Ms. Reming's question about the Amber Alert that was received. Let me find my, okay, in your mailbox, you'll see there's a packet. It starts off, there's an email down below, actually how it got started. Mr. Whedon, our councilman, sent an email to myself, Chief Jaworski, Brian Spitzenagel, and we shared it with Shannon, our dispatch coordinator, supervisor. And so I'll just kind of go through her answer. Would that be the best way? I'm trying to sum it up. Okay. I think, what do you think, Ray? And I know, Angela, I think you're saying, I read what she sent back to you, I thought was a pretty good explanation. And then I'll have Angela, who gets a little more information too. But this is what Shannon, who's involved in the dispatch, runs the dispatch for us here in the village, and is very well versed on all the calls that come in and out. And she put, I also received the messages. For my understanding, this is the first email for Amber Alerts, this is something that is done through the cell phone providers, and everyone in the country that has a smartphone gets these messages pushed to their phones. The only thing I can think of, the Amber Alert was sent in error, that is a training issue within the staff that pushes those Amber Alerts out. But if it was a good Amber Alert, then it needs to go out regardless of the time of day so that the child can be located, which we all understand that. CECOMS, which is located in the basement of Bedford Hospital, does usually handle all Amber Alerts, but they push the information to Columbus, and Columbus puts all the information out for cell phones, billboards, and to the local media. I do believe the Amber Alert for East Cleveland was an appropriate message that needed to be put out. Okay. But then she answers it, she got an answer Let's see here.
Last page.
Yeah, I'm looking, let's see how I guess I can read the whole thing. So this explains actually what happened, Karen. The message was sent to the county's reverse 911 database, which includes all landline phones in the county. We have rectified the issue and will no longer send Amber Alerts to the reverse 911 database. If you are already notified subscriber and selected to receive Amber Alert notifications, you will continue to receive them. If you would like no longer receive them via phone call, you can log into your account via, we got the thing here, and this is something we can put on our website too. And remove Amber Alerts from your profile. We continue to issue Amber Alerts through the wireless emergency alert system, but will not use the reverse 911 landline feature to issue or cancel the Amber Alerts. Those with landlines only will learn through television and radio. Those who wish to eliminate Amber Alerts from their cell phone need to follow the carrier's instructions or modify their settings in Ready Notify. Okay, that statement was from the county. Okay, she copied and pasted that for us. Shannon received that statement I just read from the county. So, but that is something too we can put in maybe in the next journal or on our website too. Angela, want to add to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can add to that. It wasn't just Walton Hills that received the calls on the landlines, obviously, because of the county sending them out reverse. And just know that if you do go through the process of opting out, you can turn your settings off on the cell phone. If you do go through Ready Notify though and completely opt out, that means if something important does happen, you're not going to get the notification. So just keep that in mind. And I know these calls came in different times of day because I did not receive mine in the middle of the night. Mine was only to my cell phone. I did not get one on my landline, and it was not in the middle of the night. But yeah, so that was basically it too, was just to let everybody know how to opt out if they wish. But a missing child's always an important thing, so unfortunately, some people got woke up this time for it, and thankfully that child was found safe.
Okay,
So,
Yes,
Yes.
that's the important thing. That child was found.
Mayor?
Yes.
But it was a mistake that they pushed
reverse
this to
portion
the
was the mistake.
to the
Yes.
reverse 911.
exactly, that's what
Right.
sent it to landlines too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which of course can be alarming at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
But otherwise, it would send it to your phone, your cell phone, if you have a smartphone. Most of us do automatically have that feature, and you could probably turn that off in your settings or contact your carrier, Verizon, AT&T, whoever you have, and have them help you either shut it off completely or unsubscribe. But if you go directly through Ready Notify and completely unsubscribe, you're not going to get any notifications, even if there was an emergency in Walton Hills.
Right, like they said in her letter to us, the message was sent to the county's reverse 911 database, which includes all landline phones in our county. So they rectified the issue and will no longer send Amber Alerts to the reverse 911 database. So the county rectified that problem.
There was
Yeah.
something on the news yesterday about it as well, I know, because
Yes.
Mary, who works here, is in Independence, so she had asked in the morning, and she said they had just switched the code red over in Independence, so she questioned that, and she did tell me later on that it was on the news. So, again, not just here in the village.
Well, when your phone rings at 2 in the
Oh,
morning.
yeah.
You
Yes.
think
The home
somebody in
phone
your
for sure.
family died, that was the first thing that woke me up.
I hope that, Karen, I hope that answered your question. You can always type in more if that didn't answer, we'd be glad to expound on it. Don't ever hesitate to call, dispatch, call the 232-1313, the non-emergency number, and you can ask for Shannon or the chief too, if anybody has any questions, they'd be glad to explain it too. Any response or?
I have nothing. Is there anything I'm missing, Sarah?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you think of anything, anybody else, just don't hesitate to let us know. Okay, we'll move on to item B. Resolution 2021-4, Internet Auction for 2021. That's something we do every year. Put our old equipment on a website to sell it, recoup a little bit of money back. But you want to talk about that a little bit, Angela? I don't think
Sure.
there's
So this is a housekeeping piece that we pass each year. Typically, we've been using GovDeals. There are other websites out there, but we've had success with that. This past year, we sold some plates that were in the kitchen from when we purchased the event center that were outdated and nobody was using for anything. We've sold 2 service vehicles and I believe 1 police vehicle. And so in the future, it would potentially be a couple more vehicles going up. But yeah, I mean, we don't use it super often, but if we've gotten new vehicles and we are able to get some out of the fleet completely that are very old, then we do. I know in the next year, though, we will have 1 police vehicle moving back to auxiliary, and that auxiliary vehicle moving to rec. So we do a good job of also reutilizing. So, yeah, so if you ever have questions, you know, about what we've sold throughout the year or what we've, you know, made on the purchases, just feel free to ask me. It's never $1 million, I can tell you that, but something's better than nothing. And given as old as our service vehicles are, something's definitely better than nothing.
So this resolution gives us the
Authority to post and sell, yeah.
seller.
You Mayor,
Yes.
this resolution, I remember when this was passed, and it was brought to us by Mr. Linville.
You are exactly right.
It is something we do every year, and the village will continue to do for years to come.
Everybody good with that?
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Are we okay going with suspension on that one?
Sure.
Everybody good? Okay. I know we've talked about it in other COW meetings. Would anybody like to introduce it at that time?
I will.
Mary? Okay. Okay, we have item C, the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation. Yeah, I can. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District and with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for technical assistance in implementing soil and water conservation matters. We need to execute a memorandum of understanding between Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District and the Northeast Ohio Sewer District for the implementation support stated above. So they want to see that. We haven't done this, we've been in this agreement, but I don't think we've ever did legislation for it. When we were reviewing it, Mr. Montello suggested it would probably be the right thing to do. They are requesting legislation, a resolution.
And this MOU is going to be good for 5 years, so
Yes.
we won't need to sign another MOU in that time.
So
And this,
another
Mayor?
thing we're trying to clean up a little bit.
Mayor,
Yes.
just a question. This is for public education
Exactly.
and things like that.
Correct. It's a
And
program
how we're
called
going
HIPE.
to help them do that. It doesn't cost us anything.
No, it doesn't cost us, but kind of explain how it
We
works, Andy.
agreed to encumber, each year it's different, it was $5,000 and now it's $6,000. And we agreed to put that in our budget to pay for the program, but then we are reimbursed from the sewer district for the whole amount.
The whole amount.
And then throughout the year, the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District will contact us and try to set up some educational either events or give us some information or handouts or things that we can pass on to the residents throughout the year.
So zero cost to the village.
Right.
Any questions on that?
This is another piece of info that kept going to our wrong emails as well, so I
Yeah,
apologize
they-
for throwing that out for you, but.
Yeah, they were missing mine and yours, and we had,
And they had Run for Jones.
yeah, we're gonna have to look at it, because I know Paul sent myself, just in case you guys experienced, Paul sent myself an email, he copied me, John, and Rob. John got it, but me and Rob didn't receive
I'll
it.
reach out to TAC tomorrow because that seems to be an issue we're having. Mr. Linville didn't get his email from me from Sunday originally. Mary didn't.
It was just Sunday.
Natalie was missing an email that came through Monday from
On
someone,
Monday.
and it was a group email, so when the next person hit reply all, she saw that, hey, my name's on there, but I didn't get that. And he didn't really have an answer at the time when she called him, but I'm gonna let him know this has happened now for several different occasions and
See,
several.
I thought it would just happen on Sunday.
No,
Maybe
I
on-
don't think that was even it, but I will definitely touch base with TCC
Yeah.
and TAC. TAC does our email, TCC does the computers, and so between the two of them, there's gotta be something glitchy happening.
Yeah, something
Okay.
happened there.
I'll make a call tomorrow.
And John got it, but he's not tied to here. I mean, you know, it was his
Right.
his
That's
business
lawyers.
email,
Well, I
yeah.
know some of you did receive your agenda because you had questions, so I'm not sure why.
And you sent it at the same time.
Yeah, I did, absolutely. And we actually even sent Mr. Little a second one yesterday from Mayor Delansky, and he didn't get that one either until this morning when I sent, then he was able to receive.
So we'll just let you know, we'll
Yep,
get
we'll
that
look into
straightened out.
that.
But if you see something or send us something, and I don't answer or something, don't hesitate to call, you know, it's just, we just noticed it Sunday when John called and said, did you get that email? So, who would like to introduce item C for suspension? We have a deadline on it.
I'll do that, Mayor.
Denny? Okay. That will be for either next week or the following week, once we decide about the meeting. Okay, item D, Angela, I'm gonna let you,
Yeah, okay, so I brought this up in the past after speaking with the auditors. Each year I open blanket purchase orders that are either department related for service, for example, for repair and motor vehicles, buildings and land, operating supplies, or they can also be that I open a purchase order that's not really called a blanket, but it is technically where we've got contracted services, like with Jan Pro for our cleaning, for example, and I encumber the entire year, so you know right off the bat, like what our monthly cost is and how much we're gonna have out for them for the year. So to be able to do that, they had, you know, there's a revised code section that we can reference that we really should have legislation to say that it's okay for me to open those. And so the amount of 150,000 came because that kind of covered, trash is our most expensive and largest PO that I would open each year. And so that kind of covers most of that, basically, hopefully for the year at least. If I would need to open another one later, we can discuss. But this basically then just everybody's on the same page that at the beginning of each year, I'm gonna go ahead and keep opening these blankets because that's obviously a time savings as well, so that each time we have to pay those people, I don't have to open a brand new purchase order. It covers them for the whole year. So it wouldn't be for anything that we haven't already approved in legislation as far as contracted services. It would always be things we've already done, salt, trash, cleaning service, anything that we've already approved. And then in addition, the smaller purchase orders. So for an example, if I open for operating supplies, it's usually gonna be 5,000 at a time. And those usually are good for 3 months in our accounting system. So either if they run out before then, I open another one, not more than that. And obviously nothing more than what we've appropriated in total. But otherwise, they will also then expire and I would open a new one in 3 months because the accounting system puts an expiration on them. So just to safeguard so that everybody knows why, we've got purchase orders open when they are.
But Angela, this was done per the recommendation of the state auditor.
Correct. The
So-
auditor said we should have been having it all along pursuant to that revised code 5705.41 section D. There's, it talks in there about making sure that you've, got approval from your governing body to go ahead and open the purchase order.
and that's right in the legislation.
Yeah.
Right in the
So,
legislation.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
So this $150,000, you mentioned the trash and things like that.
Exactly. So I went back and forth with him because I wanted to make sure I had the right amount in here. I was thinking for the smaller purchase orders, but I said I do also open the larger ones, for our social worker, not that hers is super huge, but, for Tom Jordan, so if anybody we have contracted services with, I encumber that right away. So we're never like in the dark and say, oh, but we still owe this person this much money, right? So if we know we're paying someone for the year, I open those in January typically, or after a budget would be passed. So that amount is just so that everybody knows that, yeah, I could be opening one for 150 out there for trash. It doesn't mean everyone's gonna be that much. I open them based on what our monthly costs typically are for.
So will we have to revisit this sometime this year and do another one of these for more money?
No, you wouldn't do another one for more. So let's say trash goes over. Let's say we're in December and now I have one more trash bill left. I would only open a PO for what that remainder was for the year. And then we would be going through our finances, I would say, yeah, we under budgeted trash a little bit for this year,
But it's for each item, Brian, it's not
Right,
for all
so
those items.
trash itself, let's say it's 15,000 a month. Then I'm gonna open that for that 150, because sometimes it's 12, sometimes it's 13. but
Well, that's
the-
why where I'm stuck, because this is for
It's not 150 in
150,000.
totality, it would be up to 150 per PO, depending on the PO.
Look in section 1.
150 per PO,
That I would be
not in
authorized to open
totality.
up to
Okay, because that's where I was
150 per PO.
getting stuck. You're
most are
having
not, but-
$150,000, but
Total.
the trash in and of itself was more than
Correct, well,
$150,000.
so I'm keeping it here, and then we see where we end up later for that, but you wouldn't have to revisit if I just have to open something to close out 1 month of it, because
So this
sometimes
is,
that happens.
so,
Brian?
just so I'm clear, it's $150,000 maximum per
Per
purchase order.
that would be a blanket,
Okay.
Take a look at section 1.
I was gonna say,
All right.
section 1 there.
Yeah, I guess I could have put.
Yeah,
Oh, it does say
I-
each of township.
You do have
yeah.
each there.
I do, okay.
You do have each, but I took that, in reading that, I took it as, this is a blanket purchase order for a
No.
maximum of $150,000.
Multiple
And I'm
purchase
thinking office equipment,
Yeah.
No,
We all
stuff
did. I
like
did the
that.
same.
And then
No.
when you said trash, I'm like, well, that's gonna cover the
that's why I've got the
150,000 like
pre-approved
that.
contracted services part in there too, to make sure we covered that.
All right,
Because I
so-
originally did not cover that when I drafted this, and the auditor said, yeah, no, you want it to be a bigger amount and cover those services that you've already approved as well, that you're gonna open a
No,
PO.
we're gonna.
When me and Angela talked, I had a feeling, that's why I kind of was ready.
Yeah.
I knew,
Yeah.
because I
Well,
felt,
and
I
was
said the
like,
same
well,
thing.
it's a
It's-
big amount, so, yeah, no, not one big blanket, it's gonna be multiple blankets that most will be 10,000 or under, depending, okay, police, ammunition, and supplies. So there's a couple different ways, like a blanket can cover multiple vendors and be for a one line item, or a blanket can cover one vendor and be for their contract for the year, that, you know what I'm saying? So that's why it's up to 150, so that if I go to do electricity or, do my PO for not necessarily water, but, the utilities and the trash, then we're not like, oh my gosh, she just opened this huge PO and we didn't know about it. So that way, everybody's on the same page. So that's why it looks like such an astronomical amount. And it does say each, but it's not like we're gonna have many at that amount.
Can I,
Does that make sense?
yeah, let me just ask you this. So from an accounting end, what is the reason the auditor, what does that do for us as a village as far as record keeping? If they wanted to see that, it's easier for them to account for, what was, I
Right,
just
the
kind of want you to say what their reasoning.
the legislation allows the auditors to come in and say, hey, was this fiscal officer or accountant or whoever able to make this purchase order so large, you know what I'm saying? And then without them having to go back and dig up contracts and everything too. So now that you guys would be on the page that, hey, we know these purchase orders will be open at some point in the year, usually the beginning, if we do a contract later on, obviously one later. But yeah, it's just another safeguard
Okay,
to know that the governing body is aware that purchase orders are being opened in this amount as a blanket. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
And Angela, please let me know if this is correct. You are not allowed, this is not saying you can just open anything for any reason. It still is
No, so-
by the guidelines of what we
Absolutely.
say
When we do
we
our
are
final
spending.
budget and we appropriate in the operating supplies for service department, I would never be able to open anything for any more than we've appropriated, first of all. But in the terms of that PO, that's gonna be one of those ones that's a blanket based on account number that will cover multiple vendors. If they need to go to Lowe's, if they need to go to Home Depot. And because we do have the credit cards, that's what makes this especially important, because time saving for me to say, hey, Rec, you've got a purchase order for senior services. Rob, you've got a purchase order for your repair and maintenance of buildings and land. And I usually, like I said, keep those to about 5,000 each to start. And if they run down, then I just go back and I'll open as needed, not to exceed appropriations. Because service would be the one that usually goes over. Police ammunition and supplies, theirs may get open for 9,000 or 10,000. But again, then we run that through. So any purchases they're making for ammunition, for sights for their weapons, for anything that they need supply-wise, that's going to get. It could be any vendor, and that saves me, on the efficiency side of accounting, from having to go in and open a purchase order for every single vendor that we're going to purchase from every time we make a purchase. Yeah. They're very common. I mean, different in different municipalities, just depending, but.
Mayor?
Yes.
For Angela, for a novice.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. So you open up a purchase order to cover the police department expenditures
Yes.
or whatever. Does that purchase order have a number on it where you
Absolutely.
then refer to everything else that's covered under this purchase
The
order
original
for
purchase order does,
documentation?
absolutely. So Stan could say, hey, what, give me my, now, they could ask for them all in the beginning of the year so they know, but not all vendors ask for them. So if the vendor were to say, I need to put a purchase order down for you, Stan would say, hey, what is my purchase order for supplies and ammunition? I would say it's purchase order number 3-2021, and then he could reference that, exactly. Usually if it's a bigger purchase or something separate and off the, we're not usually using that vendor, they will ask for a separate one. When we're purchasing vehicles, we do a separate one, obviously. So Gillingham or whoever we purchase from, they get their separate purchase order. They have that number before they even start the vehicle. So, and that wouldn't be a blanket, because that's gonna be a, hey, we're purchasing this year at this time, they're ready to get started on the car, here we go. We do, sorry. So, right, so yeah.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, just to clarify for me, this pre-approved contracted services, that means council has to act on each service.
well, anything you've already approved. So that's to let you know that I'm not gonna go open a purchase order for anything we haven't already done legislation for in terms of contracts.
But
So I would
we
open
would
it
have
for our salt.
voted on that service though.
You would have already voted on it, right?
Okay.
It'd be not, that meaning there'll be nothing that I would open something for that you haven't already voted on that contract.
So, and prior to our voting on, it, no money can be released.
We vote on our appropriations for that purpose, correct? So we don't release any funds until we've done a temporary budget or a permanent budget for that year. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to point out that this is one of the other things that Angela's been working on with the state auditor.
Yes.
I know it's taken a little extra time for the report 52, but there have been a lot of things that you've been moving around and trying to clean up
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
that, and I appreciate that. And I would appreciate being able to introduce this for you.
Sure. And there have been other bulletins that have come out in the last few years that we may have been doing things right all along, but then all of a sudden now we didn't catch that bulletin or we didn't catch that revised code piece. Or the auditors dug deeper and said, yeah, we should probably take this piece of this revised code and start holding people accountable to that one section. So yes. Any other questions for it?
Okay.
We had a comment.
Everybody,
from
anybody else have any questions related? Any-
No, not related to that. I'm just
Any-
letting you know we had a comment from Lee Nielsen about it being a state regulation to wear a mask in a public building. That's my
Are we
note.
wearing our masks?
What was, go ahead, were you gonna,
No, I was looking for the mask.
Angela had hers off for a while
I was, yeah.
when she was
It
talking.
easier to hear me.
Any questions on that piece of legislation? Okay. And Jennifer Allen would like to introduce that. Can we have suspension for that?
Please.
Okay. All right. Okay, the next item, item 6, discussion on current and future paving legislation. What I also gave you in your packet, let's everybody grab that and we can kind of walk through that. It's still in the process, but we're moving it along. What you'll see is the first page where it says FYI Don. That page is what's in place right now, okay? Which we passed 9/17 of 19. What's that?
You had it's on that construction
It's-
standards page,
Construction.
the second page of your
Oh,
packet.
Mary, she must have put that on top.
Well, it says
Actually,
construct-
the date's different.
That's a separate page. It's not stapled, is it?
No.
It's not, but she had it together in the packet.
Oh, okay, well, let's go to your stapled set. So, the first page on the staple is the existing construction standards, the 1292.11. There's no writing on it. That was passed, thanks, Ed. It was passed 9/17/19. This body passed it. The second page is just some of the tweaking by Joe Gelati, our engineer, me, him, and Rob. Again, Rob spent some time with it. And then the third page, you'll see what's been taken out, what we'd like to take out and put in. And with that said, we sent those pages, and then you have a separate page, because I thought I copied you. I sent an email to George Smarigan, who does all our zoning and our ordinances, reviews them. And then I put another page, a separate page. He did respond saying he took a look at it. Sorry I missed you, Winnicott. I have no issues with the changes you are proposing to the construction standards.
On that second page, these notes, these handwritten notes, those are engineer's notes, right?
Yeah, right, yes. And then Denny, what we corrected is right here, what we would put forth that last
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
And it shows what we would be taking out and what would be put in. The highlighted is what we would be putting in, and the lines out is what you see there. It would just be, it's another way of tightening up, making the ordinance clear, let's put it that way. We thought we had it pretty clear on our second one, and so we're just trying to clear it up even some more.
Mr. Mayor? it's
Yes.
Definitive now,
Right.
no getting around.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah, yes.
John and Rob looked at it. It might have to go to planning, the planning committee, but we do have some other things, from what we remember, for group housing and stuff that we put on right when the pandemic hit. So I would put that stuff, so if they make a decision, if they say it's fine, it doesn't have to go to planning, I'd have it for legislation. But if it has to go to planning, then it will go to planning. But we'd have a meeting right away then, because I'd like to get some of these. But then I'll also have George, since there's been a little lapse, review the other ones too and make sure everything's current, so we'll get everything else up to date as of today, But he just looked at this, so I wanted to give you, his thing. So take a look at it. I just wanted to get it out there, let everybody know. I know we talked about it, that we want to strengthen it and get moving on it, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
The current one that we have too there were some changes made to this when we passed this in September of 19 from George Smarigan.
right.
That he had suggested.
Exactly,
Back
yes.
then.
The one before that was passed 9/15/2009. But what's gone on, everything's, was before our 19 too. Some of the things
Right.
that have,
But as Mary said, Councilwoman Brenner Miller said, it's just to make things more definitive and less gray.
yes, that's it. We're even cleaning it up some more,
Mayor, just have a question about this. So I am an owner of a large parking space, and it's asphalted, and I have a chuck hole in it. I would have to fill in that chuck hole with hot applied asphalt or something else that's approved by the engineer. I could not use anything else. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
After we get all of this passed.
Yeah, after we get all this passed. So this applies to paving an entire parking lot?
Yes.
As it applies to repairing a parking lot or driveway or anything like that. Now, does this, I obviously don't know the answer to this question. This 129211, this is not home, this is not residential
No,
area.
this
This
is
does not
also-
apply, so if somebody has
I
a,
was
No.
thinking the same thing. actually.
yeah, somebody
if you-
has a
If you read
asphalt.
A, right there, the first line, all parking and loading areas and access drives, with the exception of driveways accessing
Accessing single-family
single-family
detached
detached dwellings.
Okay.
And Mayor, I need to be excused for a minute.
Yes, go ahead, Danny.
Okay, so this does apply to paving a parking lot. I was constructing a new parking lot, and I'm repairing a parking lot. Those two are one and the same according to this ordinance.
I'll have to clarify that.
Yeah, I'm not
We're
100% sure.
talking about it, we're taking notes now, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's,
Okay?
Well, yeah, Mayor and Councilman Spitznagel, when I look at the last sentence in that section A, it kind of talks about repair.
right.
And which,
Patching and sealing when such disintegration takes place. It says
Yeah.
patching and sealing with what? This stuff, or can I patch and seal with
something else.
something else?
Yeah, to me, it says if you're paving, it has to meet the top standard.
I agree with you.
And-
Our previous ordinance, and I spoke to the engineer, was his definitive answer was, these are the construction standards. And it ended up being vague, too vague. So I just want to make sure that this applies to both new construction as well as repairing construction that's already there.
Okay.
Maybe the answer is at the end of that sentence, what we read just to the last sentence there, as approved by the city engineer, as determined, we can give him a discretion in regards to the repairs as well. Just a thought.
Okay.
Just to make it clear. Then I was thinking as the marking with the ADA requirements and the striping, we might want to refer to the applicable Ohio Revised Code or federal standards that they need to comply with, like put in there as mandated by whatever section requires ADA,
Okay.
handicapped spots, and just because I think that was sort of an issue that was,
Okay.
there's not much guidance.
Well-
It makes common sense that you have to comply with the ADA. Some people question that, so we need to maybe clarify that a little bit.
Okay. And don't hesitate to call myself, Rob, or Joe as you look at any other suggestions. I know you just received it, so anything related to that's work in progress here. We want to get it right.
Yeah, maybe under section A, something like with, as stated above, materials
Materials.
and approval of the, village
Yeah.
engineer.
We'll keep looking at it. Yep.
Gosh.
I will take all that back to Joe and Rob and George. So that will also be on the next COW meeting, whether, we'll have to see, it might go to planning, but I'll still have it on there for discussion. Have another, have it, probably some different, add some additions to it. if anybody thinks of anything else. Don't hesitate to let us know. Any other questions relating to that item?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Not to A, but I'm looking at C like cat, illuminating in open areas. We've talked about the recreation building down there and the lighting and that. Has anything been done? If we're going to be tweaking this 1292.11 construction standards, is there something there that has to be done or looked at? You know, I think Rob and Joe are going to look at that. Did we get any answers on that?
No, well, I'll follow up with them on that.
I mean, if we're going to tweak, you know, might as well get it done, you know, while we're working on it.
Okay. I will have some answers for you in the next COW meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions related to that? And if you have any, we have the next COW meeting too. I'll get those answers for those. Everybody good so far, just getting the ball rolling with that item, which is good, good discussion, we'll work on that. And then we have item, oh yeah, well, I'm going to talk about that in other business. Yeah, that's for Dunham Road, yeah. Okay. Yes. So we're good to move on to item 7? Okay, item 7, which is the budget discussion.
So I gave everyone a report 52. I was finally able to get December closed. Still working on closing out the year. The auditor's got a few things that may need to be adjusted in looking at our 18-19 audit. So I'll be touching base with him again and hoping to close the year soon, because I don't, if I remember correctly from other years, I can't give you January 52 until I close out the year. So I can keep plugging along, but I don't think I can give you a full-on 52. I can give you a partial. So in looking at where we're at, just keep, you know, again, keep in mind, I'll be doing an encumbrance soon, probably for Dunham. That way we are already not getting excited looking at our bottom line. But so we basically, you know, are going to end the year about 40,000 ahead of what was budgeted. Once we take out, you know, from that bottom line, that the 2.6 million that's to pay for the Dunham Road project. So, questions, concerns?
So less special, we'll call them special items. We have your last page in 2020 actual, we've got a surplus of $2,642,000 and change.
Right, so less that 2.6, our surplus
Less
is
the
the 42
2.6
million.
is what we actually
Correct.
did, was roughly the 42,000.
Yep, you got it, 42,000, sorry. So still in the black in a COVID year, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, we did very well. Plus, remember, sorry, Ray, but we did pay down a little more, like on the event center, we paid more. Go ahead, Ray.
No, Mayor and Angela, I had a question as it relates to actually first page of Report 52. The municipal income tax, electric tax, I think I just heard you say you have finally finished or closed?
Yes.
So in that line item, you know, it's a lot under what was budgeted.
So we've talked about this line item before, actually,
Right.
and each year is a little bit different circumstance. Some years we get more money, and some years we get less on the utility tax.
Right.
Last year was a great year compared to even 18, and so I can reach out to see with the you know, the county, what happened with that, you know, but it's not unusual that it would fall short. And then I may get a big payment in the first quarter of this year as well. It's very cyclical and up and down. So, you know, I think we budgeted probably the 30, knowing we did get a nice chunk last year, but the year before that, we didn't get as much, and if I remember correctly, 17, we hardly got any. So, yeah, that kind of is what it is. It's not something that we can kind of rein in, like our regular income taxes from our businesses and our individuals. So I can check with the county and just see, you know, if that was any way COVID related, but that was something that is always up and down.
Yeah, so my question is, so if the next payment or the next distribution that comes in,
It'll
what,
be recorded for 2021.
that's what I want to
Yeah,
know.
we're done recording. So even at the end of any year, like I'm still putting in payments for withholding from the end of December because they're sending them and they're not due till January 15th. And so that doesn't get recorded in the end of the year, it gets recorded when it's deposited. So likewise with that, if they would have any next distributions from utilities, that's gonna come in, that melt distribution is gonna come into 2021. Absolutely. But I apologize, I was gonna run numbers for you, a comparison from last year to this year to show you where we ended up with the taxes overall. But I could do that, I could just email that out to you, just percentage. I know we're probably still down a couple percent based on COVID, but
And one more question, just,
Yeah.
you know, I know the village received some CARES Act funding. Do you have a total of what we received? I'm not sure where it shows up in the
so the CARES
report.
Act money has its own line item.
Okay,
And let me see where I stuck it. I created a line item for it. If you could flip your page over to page 2 of the revenues, and last line before the general fund ends, 1,982-0000 extraordinary items. That was our total funding for
Okay.
CARES, 116,993.80.
okay, that's good news.
And what we've done is I did that just like we've been doing the roads now. So all of our expenses still went wherever they were. If you know, service department purchased PPE, it stayed in that operating line item. If we purchased it here, Lisa purchased it, it came out of this one, police. The expenses stayed, the revenue stayed where it was, and then we reconciled it out to the county on 2 reports that we turned in. So basically, the beginning 2 smaller pieces we got covered all our PPE and our meetings. And then the second chunk of about 84,000 covered meetings and covered overage on police part-time payroll and a little bit of the fire contracts.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just, you know, for the people who are watching that don't have this piece of paper here, may be interested in where our businesses fell last year. They're actually pretty much in line with what they were in other years. 2018 actual, I'm talking net profit tax. 2018 was 596,000 and change. 2019 was 753,000. We had budgeted 650,000 for 20 and actually came in at 660,000. So actually more than the 2018, less than the 2019, but still more than 2018. Withholding fell by, income tax withholding fell by about $250,000. So the businesses, Angela, right, am I quoting that correctly, that they pretty much
Correct.
held up pretty well?
I wouldn't even say for sure fell, because again, we don't capture the year in its entirety. That
Right.
you know, now we are capturing the end of the last month from last year also in the beginning of this year, so it's kind of does wash itself, but I think our business has held strong. Net profit, I'm probably still gonna have some coming in because extension upon extension, we had the automatic extension from the government, then other people still kept filing, and sometimes they even filed more. So I don't think that's the end of our net profit. It won't go up probably substantially more, but, so I think we did still fare well. And again, the individual returns were up this year quite a bit over what we budgeted and over last year. And so that's where I'm gonna go conservative when we finish our final budget, our permanent appropriations, because if anybody was unemployed, that's gonna be on their 2020 return that I'll get in the next year coming forward here, so. But yes, we were fortunate, like I said, if I run figures over this same time frame of last year, we will probably end up just, a couple percentage points under where we were. Last year, we were up every month, so, so that was a gracious thing, to be able to be up every month, a couple percent, but yeah, with COVID and with timing, I keep checking to see, and the reconciliations for withholding are gonna start coming in, so if anybody did miss payments that were due to us, then I'll catch it in there, but we got really fortunate with most of our businesses still operating at almost full capacity for employees, so.
Yeah, Mayor and Angela did have one more question as we
Yes.
are, preparing to try to finalize 2021 budget. I got the good understanding of the CARES Act dollars, but there's another line item, and I'm trying to make sure I get this right. It's 1,392,000, other miscellaneous non-operating revenue, which was $140,942, of which in 2020, we budgeted zero there.
Right.
So can you explain to us what that is?
Absolutely. So certain pieces of that are going to be reimbursements that we received on some road projects, because I've mentioned in the past, the way we were recording them, which we corrected now, we were recording them against expenses. So if they came in a year after the expense was paid, we could not go back and credit that expense, so it was received in as regular income this year. That $92,000 dividend check we received, so some of that might be, partial reimbursements, like maybe toward the CDE invoices. When we get our reimbursement, we apply it toward the contractor that's doing the work on the roads, and as well as Sugar Valley for their work on that particular project. $92,000 from workers' comp that we got the dividend of. And then there may be other little miscellaneous things that have come in as well, that again, couldn't be applied year over year. We needed to go ahead and just bring it in as income, so instead of applying it to something else. It's a little bit of a catch-all, but not always. So most of what's in there is from road programs and BWC. Once I undid those expenses and reimbursements for the road programs, anything that didn't come in directly to that portion may have come in here. And we did have another BWC reimbursement earlier in the year as well for, I want to say like $7,000, so that could also be in that line item.
So in 2021, will those?
Right, we don't, it's not something that we anticipate,
Right.
it's one of those, this is our nice little windfall.
So in 2021, if we have those similar type reimbursements, do it still go into this miscellaneous, or will they have its own
I'm gonna give it its
line
own,
item?
but when we know the road project related, it's gonna get its own,
Okay.
yeah. That way we can differentiate the true miscellaneous from the road project reimbursements.
And that was some of the stuff that the state auditor was working
Recommended.
with you on
Again,
and
correct, there is
recommended.
an AOS bulletin that said we were not doing it correctly. You really want to accurately reflect your expenses and your income, and sometimes that, does go between years, right? You may finish a project, not have your reimbursement yet, or you may have reimbursement on part of it and still not done with the project, so you're gonna still pay some out, so. But what we know we're gonna get from Dunham, we'll put, or we're gonna anticipate, of course, based on what they've given us a figure of up to, but we'll put that in here, as well as the county has that information as anticipated other resources for the year. So when they do our certificate of estimated resources, they know, hey, we have this much encumbered, but don't panic, because we know we have this coming in from the county. So anything that we are sure of, grant-wise, we can include in there. Yeah, that'll be what we do going forward.
Angela, could you please explain the reasoning with the sale of the notes and the grant money going into there, so all of our residents understand and
Sure,
stuff too?
so, Councilwoman Ellen asked earlier to me, the amount is a larger amount, and that, amount in for the notes, 3.9, I believe it is, it's inclusive of Dunham Road project, which is 2.6 million, that was new money, and then it is our renewal that we do each year, and I believe we did that at 1.295 million. So that less all of the fees and everything that went with, obtaining the notes, that's what's in that line. So part of it is dedicated to Dunham Road.
That's on page 3.
Huh?
I said, I just wanted so everybody could follow. It's on
Absolutely.
page 3 under special bond retirement fund.
3,895,260 of that is Dunham Road. And Mr. Whedon, if you look on that same page under capital, the other larger chunks of, when I undid the expense and income side of the grants for the roads and the reimbursements, you'll see in that 4901, 892 other miscellaneous that there's 467,000 in there. So those were strictly identifiable to the road project. And I can always pull a ledger for anyone, so if you ever have questions about a specific line, just email me and I'll shoot back a ledger to all of you so you can see everything that went into that line on either expense or income side.
I know we mentioned last time, the Lake Club is anticipating opening this year, which I know myself is excited about that, and I know the residents are too, to have some more recreation. So that's something just that, I know we did put it in the budget for 2020, but then with the unexpected, with COVID and they didn't open, we didn't go into that contract, but I know not only just for the residents, but also for the Parker program, they're proposing, they would like us to re-enter. And I think I mentioned myself and the late president had a discussion on it, and I can bring her in if we have any questions. They're putting the contract together, and once I get that, and I did explain it, I'm going to give her a call this week to let her know that we'd like to have it maybe for our next meeting. It's going to be very close. The only thing, they're just, with the gathering and parties and stuff, or some events that are large, they're still looking at those. So, but as far as the Parkers going down there and the residents, and there just might be some things to accommodate, within the law of the gatherings and stuff. So they're working on that contract. But just to let you know, we'd like to put that back in there. We never took it out, we just didn't.
Right, I just didn't get you.
Yeah, we didn't use it. I think it's even more important as we move forward, especially if things are still a little more, not as open to us as residents, that's even plays a bigger part in our lives, having more recreation. Not that we would have more, just getting back what we had, let's put it that way, would be nice. Anything else for report 52?
Your phone. Your phone's ringing. Oh, that's not your phone?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just putting some numbers together really quick, and I know some of these numbers under expenditures for the police full-time and police part-time and stuff look very skewed, but when you add those all up, you're actually looking at only about a $20,000 difference, because we had a lot more in part-time police salary than we anticipated, and we had less in the full-time police salary than was anticipated. So even though some of those numbers look very skewed, like the anticipated part-time police salary of $142,000, but our actual was $218,000, those other lesser amounts, it's really not as shocking as it looks when you compare them all together.
Right, I see the point. Go ahead, would you want?
No, yeah, no, Jennifer's correct.
All right. And some of that might change as we, look, we're going to get the collective bargaining agreement. So all council, once the safety committee gets that approved, and it's getting close, just so you know, then the safety committee will present it to council. And then that will help also finalize this budget too. So, and we have made some good headway. Things are going well.
Yeah, that's not even $20,000. That's just over $16,000, or $16,009 should for those salaries. So, yeah, which is really good considering everything that we've had to do with the COVID and stuff too. So, we appreciate the officers for that.
All the departments have just really done a great job this year. Along with everybody in this room, everybody's made an effort to look at everything, be present for the meetings, whether it's virtual or whether it's here, and just really, we've pretty much operated the same way we always have, and we've been very fortunate, just taking precautions and being safe and respectful of each other. We're doing well. Anything more with report 52 or the budget? I know when I get the I'll talk to Sean and see where that's at. Whether we need somebody here or not, I don't really know. Well, I'll see how everybody feels or go from there. What else? We'll have more discussion. We can kind of go over why everybody's looking at everything, what we'll have for the next COW meeting. So we know we'll have the legislation item A under 5, the police radio lease agreement with Motorola. Item B, the internet auction. I have that. The resolution for the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation. The resolution for the blanket purchase orders. I have a document there, whether it's final or still working on it, and whether or not we need to take it to planning. We'll discuss item 6. Be more specific on that. And then, of course, report 52. And we need to have the budget passed by,
We need to have the budget passed by March, because I need to have it's got to be done by April. It's got to be turned in by April.
okay. So we have March, and our deadline is you know, what's the, in April, is it April?
April 1st, it needs to
April
be brought,
1st,
so
okay.
my hope is as the CBA moves forward here, we can wrap things up between end of February, beginning of March.
Right, just to give everybody an idea, so March is our deadline.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, but April's our deadline, but we want to get it.
Right, it needs to
you
be
know,
passed in March.
Yeah.
Because the temporary covers 3 months, so.
Yes.
I just had one other question for Angela on the report 52. The unencumbered fund balance, we would subtract technically that 2.6 million from that.
Correct. Correct.
Angela,
Yes.
would you subtract the 2.6 or the 2.356 that shows up?
2.6 is the amount of the note we took specifically for it. So I keeping it at an even 2.6 for now. And then later that will adjust based on what we've actually gotten billed and what we get back from the county. But when I encumber, I'm gonna encumber it at what we took for the, you know, that's the amount of the note we took.
Yeah.
And that was dedicated to that project, so that's what I'll, yeah. And then any little deficiencies that we paid in the fees for the note, will just, that falls toward our renewal piece of the note.
We budgeted more than the actual project.
Well, I mean, the reason I'm asking about whether it's 2.6 or 2.356.
What's in the other account?
Well, that's what shows on the report 52 for December, Fund 3101, Special Bond Retirement Fund. It actually shows a 356.
Correct, so I'm not done making adjustments for the whole year, so, but I'm gonna probably put the, I would say take the whole 2.6, sorry, out. Because that money was given to us and dedicated for that project, that's what will need to come out and be encumbered. It may be that the other line item is gonna change as I go even out the year,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So Mayor, I have a question. So, you know, as we get through the report 52 and we have getting a better understanding of how we end up with 2020, as it relates to the 2021 budget, what will we be looking at next week? Will we be looking at a draft of 2021?
It won't be next
It'll
week.
probably be in March.
Or maybe even the last week of this month, I might have something, you know,
If
closer
we
to
go
a
to the-
draft. Absolutely. I'll give you a draft of something that'll look just like this, just like the Route 52's laid out. So you can see, because when we pass appropriations, as you noticed with the finals, that's always the expense side
Right.
only. That's what's gonna go to the county. But you'll see a draft that mirrors this report that's gonna show you on the income side what I'm anticipating as well as what we're gonna anticipate for expenses. Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Good, Ray, we're hoping to have, and maybe that's something we're gonna talk about now too, whether we have a special meeting next week or we have our regular council meeting and just have a COW meeting. We know there will be an executive session because we are meeting again with the collective bargaining agreement, and we hope that if we get that final, then we can have an executive session, because that's something that can be talked about in executive session, and the safety committee could share it with the rest of the council. So that will help, that's going to be part of this budget, and also talking about other things too. Not in an executive session, but I mean out on the floor as far as relating to the budget and maybe the other employees and stuff. So that's my question, I guess, is, I was thinking about it. I know we're trying to watch our meetings and kind of condense them. That's why we had the zoning, me and Paul Rich talk, have the zoning with, piggyback this meeting, so we're doing, 2 meetings. But I didn't know if we need more time that, have a special, have the COW meeting and then have the council, have another meeting with council. I guess the week will probably tell for us, huh, Angela?
Well, what's going
See how-
we need to move on the legislation for the radios and for the MOU for pipe if possible. So what?
That's
what
true.
I would
Maybe
say-
we should still
I
have a
would say
special
what your
council meeting.
What your determination would be is to just either move up your regular council, if you're thinking maybe later in the month we could save on a meeting, move up and just have it a regular council, executive session if we need it, and not have a special. That, if that's an option. If that's not an option, then yeah, you might still want a special next week.
Well, the only thing, the only reason it's a special is because we're going outside of what our normal
That's what I'm saying. So
regular
you
meeting.
need
So
to
that
have
would be
your
a special
regular-
meeting if we had it next week,
Correct.
because our regular council meeting's the
But we
third,
will need a special.
the third
We
Tuesday.
could pass all that other legislation the
Okay.
following week, but
All right, so why don't we, so we'll have a COW meeting, and there's a good chance we'll have a special council meeting too. Because we need to pass the legislation and stuff too, and then we also would like to have an executive session, and we gotta come out of that special council meeting with that. So. And then if we do need to have another meeting, that's fine. I don't want, we want to get everything right here, this, with the budget and the collective bargaining agreement and everything else, so, these other items. Okay, so we'll have a COW meeting with the special council meeting attached, so in that special council meeting, then we would, for legislation, everybody would be okay with the police radios for suspension. The next item, 2021-4, the internet auction, we'd have on that for suspension.
you can wait on that. If you don't want to pass everything in a special, and you want to save some to pass at the regular internet option.
That'd be up to council.
Mr. Montalvo?
I think that would be better.
Okay, then we'll.
Right.
So let's just pass what we know that we absolutely
Okay.
have to.
All right, that's fine, that's fine. But I'm gonna have it on there, we'll do first reading.
Yeah.
Why not do first reading? Because we talked about it and everything. Let's do first reading on it. How's that? Is everybody okay with that? We'll do first reading. Chicago, soil and water, we need to get that one done. So that will be on there. How about the purchase blanket orders?
We could do a first reading on
We'll do a first reading on that. Okay. And then, depending on item 6, we might have that for first reading too. Or suspension, we'll see how everybody feels. See what we come up with. Is that okay? How does that sound? Sound like a plan? Everybody good with that?
Mayor?
Yes, Brian?
Just a question about the purchase order thing. Obviously, it doesn't matter, am I thinking correctly? It doesn't matter the order in which
No.
we pass these, because we haven't passed a full year budget
We
yet.
haven't,
so-
and I've been doing just a 3-month or a one at a time right now if I need to, so I haven't put anything in for service yet for vehicles. I've been just going and doing it individually for the vendors right now until we pass our permanent. But it doesn't matter the order, no.
Okay.
To the auditors, it won't matter.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from council on anything relating to the items on the agenda before we go to other business? John, Montel, you have anything? Or?
No, sir.
Okay. Angela? No, okay, council, everybody? Everybody good? Any questions from any residents or anybody watching relating to any of the items on the agenda?
No.
Okay. Angela, before you go on other business, I'll just kind of go into what I have here real quick. Just kind of, I gave you guys a letter that was sent to, well, instead of sending it, because we know we sent 2 letters, and I know, I got to get you that, I just remembered. We sent 2 letters. We sent a letter in November and a letter in December before the project started about the project. Unfortunately, everybody got both of them way late. Some people actually got the November one in, pretty late in December, and December one actually after the project started. So this time, this letter here, talked to Joe Gelati, they're gonna put them in the mailboxes for those residents that are affected. This letter was, that I hear, is going to the people that are directly affected in the span of the construction. And then there was, which I have, a condensed letter, because some of this is more directly related, this letter here, to those residents, that we posted on the website, an update, on Facebook, police, and Walton Hills, our Facebook page. You still can only go south, but after the 8th, around that, they're gonna switch sides, okay? So you're gonna be going up the opposite side. So that's gonna be, I have that, I thought I had that letter here somewhere. So you can see that on the webpage. That's just an update. And this letter I gave you, this is being put in their mailboxes. The engineers, he's got an engineer, Joe, has an engineer that's there every day on that project, and they're gonna put it personally in the mailboxes. So we know the residents will get it when they should get it ahead of time. And then, as you notice, there's some things about maybe some different, maybe some inconveniences, but they will be notified separately on that too. So we're just trying to clean that up. We certainly want our residents to know what's going on there, so. Let's see, what else? Further business. I think that's it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
would you talk for a minute? So we had so many residents that had been asking questions about the reason for not having a signal on Dunham Road.
Yes.
And I know that the village engineer had sent over and stuff a reasons why list, that wasn't an easy solution to have a traffic signal there.
Yeah, and I can read the bullet points, and I know I did forward that to council, so you have a copy of that, Thursday the 28th. Joe, as Jennifer mentioned, we did have some residents and some businesses asking why there wasn't why we didn't go to traffic light and stuff. A very good question, and that way you could still go north and south. And Mr. Gelati answered it, and it was, that discussion took place in their construction meetings, because they always look for the way not to, least inconvenience for everybody. And here's what he sent us. Temporary traffic signals are not recommended for the Dunham Road project for the following reasons. The length of the project is too long, thus the time required to drive the length of the zone will result in very long wait times at a red light, approximately 6 minutes they figured out.
Wow.
There are several intersecting side streets along the project length. Temporary traffic signals would not be able to account for these streets. Vehicles entering at these streets would not know which direction has the right of way. Additionally, there are many driveways along the project length. Again, this traffic cannot be accounted for with temporary signals. That was the other thing, people pulling in and out. That was another safety issue that Joe said they spent time on. That's when you go with traffic signals, is there are people pulling out because those cars are just going. It's almost, different than like you get down by the bridge when we were involved in that with Valley View, and people, the light goes and the people go. Because if someone's pulling out now, that 6 minutes could go past even the light now, and now you're sending cars the opposite way. It just makes it difficult. Vehicles traveling in both directions throughout the day would result in a dangerous situation for field personnel, as they are used to managing traffic coming from only one direction. And that was an issue because of the hill and the bend, not seeing some of the traffic. Change of direction of traffic will result in complications for trucking and material delivery that would cause significant delays to the construction progress and schedule. Temporary signals for alternating one-way traffic zones are typically used for only very short lengths of roads during bridge, culvert replacements, and/or utility point repairs. Temporary signals for alternating one-way traffic Traffic zones are typically not used where side streets and/or driveways fall within the restricted zone. So it kind of came back again to that. That's just one of the big ones. So just wanted to clarify that. It really comes down to being a safety issue. I know it's very inconvenient, and I'll continue to apologize for, to the residents. But we all know here that it's going to be a good result. But I can tell you this, just talking to Joe and Rob about the project, and I shared with some of you in the room here as we talked about it, that as of right now, they're doing well. They're Joe, like he says, you hate to use the word above schedule, ahead of schedule, but basically they are. We've gotten some good dates. And if any of you have driven it, you can see there's a lot going on. There's really a lot going on. They're not wasting any time. So I think it's going to work out well. I think we'll have a nice project that will be done before summer. And when the weather gets nice, people keep their cars nice and everything. And, I think it's going to work out well. And as of right now, there hasn't been any problems on the Walton Hills side. They did find some, they had to make some, you've probably seen that big large piece of equipment in Maple Heights. They had a huge hole there. They encountered some kind of, Robin wasn't sure. Our engineer is handling one side and the other at Maple Heights, I couldn't tell you whether it was gas, water, but there was some kind of pipe repair that needed to take place there. But that's on the Maple Heights side, that is on their bill. They encounter that. Any extra that won't be encountered to us. So that's all being separated out. Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, I had a question that you just kind of related to what you just talked about. When, first of all, I'm glad to hear this project is maybe ahead of schedule. But when and if on a project like this, 6 months, enter community and the county involved, if there are unforeseen site conditions or things that may have to cause a change order in this contract, what's the process for approval before that work gets done? How does that, if you know, if not, we can,
Right. That's a good question, because that was something with that. What's that? Yeah, you can talk about that. Go ahead, Angela.
So actually, in speaking with Joe Gelati the other day, there is some water main portion that now needs to be done on the Maple Heights side. And once we have all the paperwork, I will certainly just get that out to everyone, because what happens is, obviously, since we are the lead on the project, Fabrizi will have to bill us for that, but it will again come back to us from Maple directly. So as soon as I have that, I can ask Joe if there's any, I don't know that there's going to be any interim legislation, depending on the cost and how far over it would go on what we originally thought would be out of pocket. But it's going to come back to us, obviously, because it's their portion. And then another little bonus that Joe read deeper into what was going to be reimbursed for the project is actually that some of our CDE expenses will be reimbursed as well.
Right.
So that's another little jump start. But yeah, in terms of the fact that yes, something did already crop up and it's that water main on the Maple Heights side of things, we'll get billed for it, we'll pay for it, and we'll get reimbursed pretty quickly for it. So yeah. But as soon as I have more info and cost and things like that, I'll get that out to everyone, and we'll see what our next steps are.
And I'm going to get a little more details on what, on how that whole piece works too.
Yeah, I think we're going to have another type of understanding agreement, just like we had the cooperation agreement to begin with from Maple. There's going to be something else signed that will kind of go along with our agreement to say that, hey, we know this work is on our side of it. We're going to go ahead and reimburse Walton Hills for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that it will.
Biggest project we've ever entered into.
I know.
Right.
Village. Biggest project the village has ever entered into is that one.
Yeah.
Well, generally speaking, if there is a change order, the council has to approve it. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
But hopefully the change order, not that I wish anything on Maple Heights, far from that. but hopefully our infrastructure, hopefully we don't encounter anything
Correct.
like they have, you know.
Well, we borrowed a little bit more too, right?
Yes, yeah,
We
oh, yeah.
are enough to cover, yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's,
Joe may have even given me a general idea of the amount the other day, but I'm gonna apologize because it's escaping me right now, but he'll get me, he'll have us all on the same page, and I'll make sure that you guys get what we need to move forward with that before we cut a check for that portion, which I don't think is happening in the immediate, but.
Well, Mr. Montello kind of hit where I was really trying to get to.
Yeah.
Was what's the process before you get to the payment piece?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
How does that change order what's the change order approval
Right.
process before the check is cut? That's what I was trying to get to, Tom.
and talking to Joe, I told Joe, because we were talking about the project, he's gonna have an update for us each council meeting. I told him we might be having a council meeting next Tuesday, so have it ready, because that might be our final meeting for the month. So he is putting something together on that. So he'll have a separate report, but I'll be able to, we can kind of talk a little more about this process.
And I should be receiving my first invoice probably in this month as well, so.
But outside of that, the project's been going well, outside of what's happened, you know, thing. And it wasn't like that, it's one of those things that, you know, that happened. You know, some of that infrastructure along Dunham Road is old. And you start moving it and things break, you know. But they jumped right in it, they didn't waste no time, they had a big machine there, it all just, they're moving right along. So. And if the weather's dictating it now, so if we continue to get the same weather, you know, where you can work during the day, it's really beneficial. As you notice, there is signs there, I don't know if anybody noticed, about fines being doubled. That's common in the construction site, so there is signs in case anybody asks. They are posted there, so. And we do have an officer there every day, or an auxiliary. For the project, you know, just to help the traffic and everything. That's all I have for other business. Angela, you said you had something?
I do, thank you, Mayor. So, one thing I wanted to make sure I addressed on the floor here, because it's important to the public to know, is that I did receive a anonymous concern from a resident, and attached to it was a copy of someone's delinquent property tax bill. And that letter asked, are we so rich that we don't care to go after that? So I wanted to make it clear to the residents what the procedure is on property taxes, because that's actually a county thing, not a village thing. So I know it's confusing that we have a tax department here, but that's income tax related. So not that I don't deal with our property taxes in terms of putting on assessments if needed, and you know, sending over possible abatements if somebody does home improvements. So I do deal with the county on this, but I did even speak to someone to make sure. In the past, we have not gotten a list per se, but they actually are reinstating some programs that they had going in the past. And so in the future here, after we close out first half payments from last year, after they're done, so let's say by the beginning of March, they will be able to get me a list of all of our delinquent taxpayers for property tax purposes. However, all that means is that if we decide to do so as a village, I can send a very nice letter out just encouraging residents to reach out to the county, who has most likely already contacted them if they're delinquent, and to let them know the county's not a bunch of monsters, they're easy to deal with, they want to help you get caught up, and they can get that on a payment plan. Obviously, we can't negotiate. Property taxes belong to the county as much as we'd like our money. So the process is that the county usually sends a nice letter or reminder or makes contact once with someone. After that, they could send a prosecutor letter, and then eventually they could go into foreclosure proceedings depending on how delinquent you are. But I ask them their timeline, and the minute something goes delinquent, they start reaching out to people. So it's not for lack of us needing and wanting our money here, that is not our jurisdiction to go after the property taxes in that fashion. So we can just, once we get a list and see who's behind both business and residential, we can, and the county agreed they'd love to keep that relationship open with me, to keep updating us, and then I can send a gentle reminder that, hey, we do notice you're behind, go ahead and give the county a call because they're willing to work with you, that's why they're reaching out to you. So hopefully that explains that, if that resident's even on that sent the information.
Explain what we do as a tax department
Right, our tax
versus
department.
having Rita.
Our tax department is for municipal income taxes, so when people work at the offices and facilities in our village, we collect the municipal income tax from those employers. We collect the municipal income tax that might also be due from residents if they work in a city that is a less than 2.5% city. That's the main function of our income tax department. It's not that you can't call here for property tax questions or things like that. I can still address those for you, but our tax department is not strictly here for property taxes or enforcement of payment of property taxes.
Or payment plans, we don't have.
Right, we can't negotiate anything for you on property taxes, we can't do payment plans, that all goes through the county.
Okay. Does council have anything for other business? Anybody have anything they want to bring up? Okay. Well, we went over, I think we're pretty clear on what we need for our next COW meeting, moving forward. So any questions from any residents? Or
No,
anybody
Rob
else?
just mentioned on the previous conversation that the verification of change will be by the engineer for any changes on the project. So as I stated, Joe will get us what we need to make a vote on any changes.
And the engineer is the one who would approve, I mean, we have to approve the finances, but approves those changes.
Correct, Joe would approve the
Whether or not
changes.
it's a legitimate change or it's necessary for that project.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Kalman. What kind of dedicated employees we have there watching our meeting and helping us out where we need it. We appreciate that, Rob. I know Joe watches the meetings too. And any other questions before I ask for the big adjournment? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment of today's COW meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote on the motion.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Churlowski?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned at 8:43. 6-0 vote. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, residents. Everybody have a rest of the week, a nice week. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you, everybody.